Time now for our Rants and Raves, starting with you, Dan Kennedy.
I have a rant for Esquire magazine and its owner, the Hearst Corporation, which killed a long, in-depth piece about the director, Bryan Singer, who, according to a very well-reported piece by two journalists, has engaged in sexual assault with a number of underage boys, including in one case something that clearly comes across as rape. Fortunately, they were able to bring it to The Atlantic, which published the whole thing recently, and it's a pretty harrowing story. It's hard to, Esquire has not said why they wouldn't publish it. It's hard to imagine why they wouldn't.
Well,
I should point out, before you say that, Bryan Singer has denied everything.
Yeah, no,
I do want to say that.
he says it's homophobic. I had a little bit of a problem with the story because the only person on the record was that one very credible individual, but everything else was anecdotal and hearsay.
There were more than one on the record.
They were all anonymous.
There were at least two.
No, they were all made-up names, whatever. But they told stories, but that one guy told his story. I don't know. They said it wasn't well-sourced. I don't know. John?
Okay, I have a rant for the producers of Morning Joe on MSNBC, your favorite show, Callie. And it has to do with the fact that Joe and Mika, the Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz of our generation, have been doing their show from Florida, where apparently they both have aging parents who need some attention. And they're down there doing the show from Florida so they can look after their parents. So the rant is not for that. I commend that. The rant is that MSNBC has been depicting them with a Washington, D.C. backdrop, and has, until Paul Farhi of the Washington Post grabbed this screenshot and did a whole story about it, they haven't even acknowledged that they're not there. And we've seen this before. Remember Cokie Roberts doing a live shot outside the Capitol when it was predicted?
But why aren't they in the same studio?
Yeah, that was crazy. They're in the same room.
They're in the same room.
The backdrop's but it's separate because it's not an elaborate enough set to show them in a wide shot. It's two separate shots. The whole thing is stupid. Come on, just say, hey, we're broadcasting from Florida to look after our elderly parents. Their ratings would go up if they just acknowledge that. And I don't think it makes that big a difference.
They're not in Florida just to have a good time, too? I mean, I believe
that. Well, they do own a home down there.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
You don't go to Florida to have a good time. Come on.
Oh, wait a minute. I grew up in Florida.
All right, Callie.
I retract that statement.
Okay, so I have a rant for Fox and Friends. I've been here before, where they put up a slide that suggested that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice, had died. And it was up there and not connected to actually what they were talking about in the middle. So that was even weirder. Somebody obviously alerted them, and then they came back and apologized and said, obviously, that was a mistake. Okay, so that's the first thing. My thing is, all of us make mistakes. Everybody, every outlet makes mistakes. Let me put that on the table. It seems to me, however, when they make an error, it's always about the people that are very opposite of who they admire and support politically. Anytime they mix up pictures, it's always people of color. Anytime they mess up somebody's died or didn't die, it's always a Ruth Bader Ginsburg or somebody else. I mean, you know, editors, check yourself on two levels here. And it's just embarrassing, and it's ridiculous.
And how that slide got on the air is just...
and why are you putting up a... How's it a technical error? I don't understand.
Yeah. Somebody put it up on Facebook to criticize Fox, and I almost had a heart attack on the spot.
Dan?
So I have a rave for the coverage around the partial government shutdown. Initially, there are a lot of the cookie-cutter stories, and those are important. I mean, you have to talk about the TSA folks and so forth, but as this, went into the second week and third week, there were some really interesting stories that were making you feel what some of the folks were going through. And one in particular that stood out, I heard on NPR. They were interviewing a woman who was standing in line to get food. And she talked about how in the past she had been always donating to this organization. And as she's standing there in line, she looks up, and they kind of have like a hero wall of people who have donated to them in the past. And she looks up, and she sees her own name. She sees her, and she goes, wow, you can never get too comfortable. One moment you're donating to other people, the next moment you need the help.
Yeah.
That really sort of brought this home to me. And so, you know, it's good when you're able to cover a story beyond sort of the official stuff that goes on around something like a government shutdown, when you can get to the heart of the story and tell those kinds of nuggets. It really makes it special.
Why didn't that woman just go to the bank and get a loan like the multi-millionaire Secretary of Commerce suggested?
Or adjust. It's just a little bit of pain, John.
Yeah, that would be a rant, though.
Yeah.
All right, well, finally, Chad, I have a rant for CNN. And they have allowed their White House correspondent, Jim Acosta, to pen a book, which comes out, I believe, June 11th, The Enemy of the People, Dangerous Time to Tell the Truth in America, which, you know, that's fine, but you can't be both the White House correspondent and writing a book. For one thing, you have a conflict of interest. Half the time you're gathering information for your book and not reporting it day to day because you want to have something to save for the book. And secondly, it's just a flat-out conflict of interest. You know, you can't do straightforward reporting while you're writing what is bound to be an incredibly negative book about Trump.
And getting a lot of money for it, I'm sure.
Jim Acosta sees his
I like
opportunity
Jim.
and he's taking it.
I'm putting the blame, I'm putting the onus on CNN.
When does he do straightforward report?
Well,
Whether or not he does it, you know, I'm with you on this. CNN should not have allowed this. This just adds to,
It does.
you know, that, you know, he's always in the tank.
Yep.
It's crazy.